Alleluia. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. Through this Easter week, we will be looking at accounts from the Bible of those who met and had an encounter with the risen Jesus, how that impacted their lives, and what an encounter with the risen Jesus might mean for us as we go through this difficult time. Today we start with Mary Magdalene. I'm reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 20, starting at verse 11. Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw two white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" the angels asked her. "Because they have taken away the Lord," she replied, "and I don't know where they have put him." She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" Jesus asked her. "Who are you looking for?" She thought he was the gardener. "Sir," she said, "if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him." "Mary," Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, "Rabboni," which is Hebrew for teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus said, "for I haven't yet ascended to the Father. But go find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, "I have seen the Lord." Mary is full of grief. She stands at the tomb and weeps. She expresses all the pain and loss she feels, and she lets her tears fall. She faces the loss of the life of someone she loved, and with Jesus' death she finds herself lost and disorientated. And now, to add to her grief, she finds that Jesus' body is gone, and she's not able to care for his body and carry out the rituals of mourning she had planned. Her grief is compounded, and so she stands there and cries. In this coronavirus pandemic, many are mourning those dear to them, and their loss is being compounded by not being able to hold the ceremonies they would like to wish their loved ones farewell. We feel their pain and mourn with them. But it's not just those who know the loss of someone who has died who will be experiencing grief at this time. Grief exists whenever we experience loss of any kind. And with all that is happening, every one of us will be experiencing loss of some kind. Loss of social contact with friends and family, loss of routine, loss of freedom to travel, loss of employment or business, loss of favourite pastimes, loss of long planned and looked forward to special events, celebrations or holidays, loss of financial security. The list could go on. And grief has this annoying habit of building on itself. So loss of something relatively minor now can have a greater impact because it stirs up the grief of experiences from the past. Like Mary, we need to recognise and give vent to our grief. Tears are okay. But grief can also be expressed in many other ways. Perhaps we feel tired, depressed or grumpy. We need to acknowledge the grief we are experiencing. Into Mary's grief comes Jesus. At first she doesn't recognise him because her eyes are too full of tears to see him properly. And then he says her name, Mary. On hearing that simple greeting, her world is transformed. Rabboni, teacher, she calls in recognition. Jesus is alive. He is there present before her. He comes to meet her, and in that place of grief and mourning, he transforms it into a place of new life and hope. The risen Jesus comes alongside us too in our grief. The people and things for which we mourn may not be instantly returned to us, but Jesus can still bring his new life and healing into our situation. He can transform what seems hopeless into a place of new life, where we can be reorientated and look to him for new possibilities. So may we listen for his voice saying our name, calling to us and coming with his comfort and strength. Take a moment to picture yourself in that garden, however it looks to you. Notice the emotion you are feeling. Where is there grief in your life? What are you mourning for? How are you expressing your grief? Now become aware of someone standing there with you. Hear him say your name. Recognise that Jesus, risen from the dead and full of new life, is there alongside you. Feel the comfort and joy of his presence. May we, like Mary, proclaim to those we encounter, I have seen the Lord. Alleluia! Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia!